We have to start with some breaking news. The Indiana Pacers, they have acquired all-star forward Pascal Siakam in a 3-team deal that sends Bruce Brown, Jordan Nwora, and 3 first-round picks to the Toronto Raptors. That's what sources told our Adrian Wojnarowski. So, Woj, how did this deal get done here?
Different trade and package scenarios between Toronto and Indiana.
So as Woj just reported, Pascal Siakam is finally being moved from the Toronto Raptors to the Indiana Pacers. Now, this is a conversation that's been going on for the past couple of days, but in a much larger scope. Pascal Siakam being traded from Toronto has been conversations that has been had for over a year now. Trading him, honestly, isn't a surprise. It was what team was willing to go get him, and the Pacers are the lucky recipients. The trade breaks down like this. The Pacers are going to receive Pascal Siakam as well as a second rounder, and then the Toronto Raptors effectively are just going to receive 3 first rounders. The most noteworthy role player, or at least cap filler, that they received is Bruce Brown. But the 3 first rounders, 2 of which are Indiana, 3 first rounders, 1 of which is this upcoming draft class, another one is 2026, and then the 3rd draft pick is effectively this year another draft class that is a combination of the worst selection of 4 other teams. And it seems like from certain reports is going to be currently roughly 27th overall pick, so a lower first rounder. Now, how exactly do I feel about this? What does this mean? And there's a lot to kind of break down. So first and foremost, when it comes to the Toronto Raptors, I kind of reported on this for the past couple of months now, even heading into last season. Effectively, this team is trying to blow it up. It's no brainer here. They've already started this trajectory during the offseason when they didn't bring back Fred VanVleet. They continue this trajectory in the middle of the season. Another trade that they went through, acquiring IQ and RJ Barrett by sending over OG Anunoby to the New York Knicks. It was almost inevitable that they were going to move up Pascal Siakam because he was on an expiring contract. This isn't a surprise from the Toronto Raptors, and in return, I actually think they got a pretty good haul. We're talking about a player who is 29 going on 30 in April, was on an expiring contract, and they received 3 first rounders for him. I actually think that's pretty good for Toronto, and in return, they also received another veteran in Bruce Brown that they're probably going to flip and receive another draft pick as well. So when we look at the bigger haul here, when it comes to what Masai Ujiri out in Toronto, what he received for both OG Anunoby and Pascal Siakam, Emmanuel Quickley, RJ Barrett, Bruce Brown, 3 first rounders, and again, Bruce Brown is going to turn into a potential another first rounder as well. So we're talking about 2 really good quality players in Emmanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett, and in 4 first rounders. I do believe that obviously if you are Toronto, it could have probably received a little bit more earlier on. Like, I think this is about as good as you were going to get for 2 players that were on the market, and in particular Pascal Siakam. He was demanding a significant amount of change if he wasn't going to sign back with the Toronto Raptors. His representation made it pretty clear that I do not get signed back to Toronto. I'm going to test my luck in free agency for whatever team that's going to trade for me, effectively letting everybody know, if you trade for me, be prepared to pay me top dollar, because that's what I'm going to be looking for. I want to maximize the amount of money that I can make moving forward, because obviously this is probably going to be the last big contract of his career. I understand, and I do believe that in many situations he will be worth it. 29 going on 30-year-old forward, that's solid defender, that's going to give you a lot of points, great in transition. He just needs to be put in a proper situation. Isn't necessarily going to be the number 1, and we'll talk about that with Indiana, but has provided enough evidence that he is a solid second, maybe even 3rd option. His flexibility defensively is what I think provides a lot of value to him, because a 6'8", 6'10" forward is what a lot of teams are looking for in today's NBA. 3-point shot hasn't been dropping as much as it normally does. Admittedly, he's not the same defender that he once was, but still, I think a better defensive option than a lot of teams have at their disposal, especially at this point of the year if you're looking to upgrade at that spot. I think Pascal Siakam is a really good addition to the Indiana Pacers, and I think for the most part, if you had traded Siakam a little bit earlier, a year before, which I think a lot of people were kind of questioning Masai, like, what exactly are you doing? If you know you're going to trade him, if you know you're going to blow up this team, why not do it earlier? But hey, it is what it is. Better late than never, and I do think it's a pretty good haul. In terms of the Indiana Pacers, I believe this is a massive W. This is easily one of the best pickups that you could have received for exactly what this team needs entering the season. I don't think many people had high expectations for a young Indiana Pacers core. They had a lot to kind of prove and a lot to show to the NBA world, and so far this season, I think they've been exceeding expectations, a huge part thanks to Tyrese Halliburton, who has really emerged into a new up-and-coming guard. He's giving you around 23 to 25 points on a night-to-night basis, but the passing, the playmaking, the facilitation is what really separates him from a lot of guards, as well as the efficiency, borderline shooting 50, 40, 90 splits, and has elevated this offense to be the #1 ranked offense in the NBA. And through certain stretches of the year, they were the #1 ranked offense by a pretty wide margin. So we're talking about a team led by a young guard, and they are trying to do their best to maximize what Tyrese has provided to this team. And I have to applaud Indiana. They're doing a sensational job at it, because there's a lot of other teams in the NBA, look at Atlanta, look at Charlotte, who have been struggling mightily to put the right pieces around their star guards in Trae Young and LaMelo. And here we are, an Indiana Pacers team, and within 18 months, they've effectively done more for Tyrese. Atlanta's done for Trae, and Charlotte's done for LaMelo. So I give nothing but praise to an organization that understands and knows their situation. And if you're Indiana, you are now looking at a team that has acquired not one, but two quality pieces in trades in Tyrese Haliburton and Pascal Siakam. And the greatest part about it is you kept Miles Turner, you kept Benedict Mathurin. Buddy Hield is on expiring, so you're going to sign him back as well. But you kept Obi Toppin as well. You kept Naismith. You kept a lot of players that many of us assumed you were going to have to lose in the process. So again, nothing but praise. So the first form of criticism that many people have when it comes to this transaction for the Indiana Pacers is Pascal Siakam and how much money is he going to get paid, because he is due and owed and looking for a huge payday. Again, like I said before, he made it very, very clear that if you trade for me, I'm probably going to be looking out in free agency to figure out, what my market looks like so I can maximize the amount of money I want to get paid, which essentially means, bro, I'm trying to get roughly max money here. You know what I'm saying? So if that is the case, what are the teams that are willing to pay him that much money? And I honestly believe it's the reason why a lot of teams that were in the conversation kind of went to the wayside, because they knew that if they were to trade for Pascal, they don't want to give up something. And then in a couple more months, when Pascal is looking at free agency, he's like, bro, I want to get paid the most and y'all can't offer it to me, so I'm going to skedaddle. However, Indiana does fit under that umbrella of teams that has the ability to do so. So when you look at the Pacers' financial situation, they do have Buddy Hield coming off the books. Obi Toppin is also coming off the books. We're talking about a team that once Bruce Brown is going to be off the books because he's a part of the trade, we're talking about a team that's going to be around only $100 million committed to the salary cap next year. So this is a team that is going to be roughly $100 million committed to the payroll, a team that's going to have a lot of flexibility, and more or less a team that has to kind of sign Pascal Siakam and almost give him everything that he's worth, because to them, he is valuable to them. That's what he is worth. When people have this conversation about what is a player worth, quite frankly, is all determining on the situation that you're in. Every team has a certain value point or what a player is worth to their situation. It's the reason why Rudy Gobert can get a max contract in Utah. He may not be a max caliber player across the rest of the league, but to Utah and even to Minnesota, he's worth that. So when it comes to Indiana, yes, Pascal Siakam is going to be worth a near max contract, even though in contrast to everyone else in the league, and when we look at everybody else in the league, I mean, Pascal, I wouldn't be surprised if he falls somewhere between the lines of 35 to $40 million in the upcoming seasons, which will put him around the same price point as a Darius Garland, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Anthony Edwards. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets somewhere in that ballpark. And again, that may sound like a lot of money, but for an Indiana Pacers team that understands, hey, look, man, we're a small market. We understand that we're not going to be able to sign star players in free agency. We understand how difficult it is for you to also draft star players as well. And we already have one on our roster in Tyrese. So to maximize what he's providing, we need to go out and get another star to complement him. And we're talking about a team that defensively struggles mightily, so they're looking for some flexibility there. A team that plays a little bit small at times, because outside of Miles Turner, they don't really have anybody give you some scoring ability who is, 6'7", 6'8", and taller. And then you're also talking about that it has a bunch of three-point shooting, floor spacing. So for someone like Pascal Siakam, who has been struggling mightily to play alongside a lot of other non-floor spacers or a lot of other non-shot creators out in Toronto, you're potentially going to get a better version of him anyway. So for Indiana, it's all worth it. It's certainly all worth it. Now, another quick question I've seen a lot of people have is, what exactly does this put them in the conversation of other Eastern Conference teams? A lot of people look at the roster, as you can see on the screen right here, and at the end, they're saying top blank squad in the East. Now, does this mean that Indiana is better than the Philadelphia 76ers? No. Milwaukee? No. Boston? Hell no. Miami? Even then, it's probably still a no. But even with that being said, Indiana is not trying to put themselves in title contention now rather than prepare themselves for the upcoming years. If you're Indiana, of course, you're not foolish enough to believe that you can compete with what other teams can build, but who knows what Milwaukee's going to look like in 3 or 4 years. Damian Lillard's going to be older, Brook Lopez, Chris Middleton, all will be older, and who knows what they're going to be able to adjust and maneuver around Giannis. Who knows what Philadelphia is going to look like. And B might not even be there in another 2 or 3 years because he's probably going to start to realize that he's running out of opportunities as well. And also, who knows what Miami's going to look like in the next 2 to 3 years if they continue to swing and miss on key star players that they're trying to add to the roster while Jimmy Butler continues to regress because he's just going to get older naturally. Who knows what the Eastern Conference is going to look like in another 2 or 3 years while you're still going to be able to compete with a fairly still active and productive Pascal Siakam, a bunch of three-point shooting, quality big and Miles Turner, and you're still going to have Tyrese Halliburton merging into his prime, which is, in my opinion, the biggest benefit of having Tyrese Halliburton on this roster and why I love that trade that Indiana did about 2 years ago when they went after Tyrese in the trade with the Sacramento Kings. You are essentially getting a franchise star on their rookie contract. And because you know for a fact who Tyrese Halliburton is, it makes it easier for you to build around him. But what does this mean for everyone else in the league? Because I think that's another really great question. Because like I stated earlier in the video, Pascal Siakam being on the trade block is nothing new. It's been an ongoing conversation for the last year now. So when you have teams like the Dallas Mavericks that were trying to go after Pascal Siakam, you also have the Philadelphia 76ers who are trying to go after Pascal. Some conversations of the Golden State Warriors trying to pick up Spicy P. What do? Because now they kind of swung and missed. And to me, this is where things get really interesting when it comes to the rest of the team and the developing story that is the Toronto Raptors roster and what they're going to start to do as well, because they're probably going to unload a lot of talent. The other teams that were in the conversation for Pascal Siakam but did not get them, some of them are probably fine with it because, again, Siakam made it very clear that, hey, if you're not going to give me the maximum amount of money or at least near that, I'm probably going to test my luck in free agency and try to go search as much money as possible. Of course, these teams did not want to give up what they needed to give up to go get him and only for him to be a rental. So that's one. I think that's probably a huge reason why the Golden State Warriors in particular really weren't interested in receiving him, because not only will you have to pay Pascal, but then we also have the other conversation of, hey, what exactly is going on with Klay Thompson as well. However, the team that I am really concerned with is the Philadelphia 76ers. The reason why I was really concerned about Philadelphia is because there's actually no rhyme or reason why you should not have been in the conversation. And the fact that we haven't heard really any noise at all out of Philly for making any type of changes on their roster is very concerning, because I told you all maybe a few months ago when the trade with James Harden initially happened that this could be the signs of the process starting to be over. And the reason for this is because you're talking about trading James Harden to the Clippers and in return received a bunch of expiring contracts, but you didn't really receive anything valuable in return outside of expiring contracts. If you are a team that wants a financial flexibility, that'd be great, but you needed draft picks, you needed young players to also come back in that return, and Philly doesn't have the proper assets to do so. Well, I'm confused to why Philly didn't really try. Maybe they did, and maybe that information didn't start leaking out. That is unfortunate. Maybe they did, maybe the information didn't leak out. But if they were not in deep conversations with trading for Pascal Siakam, very similar to the way the Indiana Pacers were, it is going to be very concerning, and it's going to be very troubling to see what this team does moving forward, because there's not too many more options for the Sixers to improve. And I believe that many of us believe that this is going to be a make or break postseason play for the Sixers, because the time is ticking, man. You got to start winning championships, or at least making deep postseason run with Joel Embiid on the roster, because if not, inevitably he's going to force his way out of Philly. And let me know in the comment section below, who do you think your team should go for when it comes to some of those other Toronto Raptors players? And also, how are you going to grade this trade on both sides? I think it's win-win, and I think that you can't really get any better in both situations. Also, hit the subscribe button, notification bell. Until next time, I'll see you all later. Peace.